Our topic was all about various purposes of communication. The learning outcomes. At the end of this lesson, you are expected to identify the various purposes of communication and demonstrate a good analysis of various texts with different purposes. Good morning, everyone. So, before we introduce to you our topic, I will introduce first our group members and the positions for this activity. I am Helena Talento, and today I will be your host. Triana Dare will share screen and screen record. John Crix Gallego is in charge of editing, and Ayla Minjola is assigned to taking down the participants' scores, while Fiona sadly can't join due to connection. We prepared two activities. The first one is called Guess the Word, and the other one is Forfeits two words. And here's the mechanics in first activity. In this game, I will read a definition of a word, and the participants are given at least 10 seconds to guess what the word is using the letters that appear. Whoever raises their hand first will be the one to answer. The first one, he was a Greek philosopher and polymath during the classical period in ancient Greece. Pamiling Kabang.
Aristotle. Yung answer po.
Is correct. Next na po. Didre.
My answer is ethos.
Okay, correct. Ayla, please.
One.
Camposano.
Patos po.
Okay, correct. Pabiran.
Answer is logos.
Correct. Bernardo.
Rhetoric.
Correct. In the second activity, the participants are given at least 5 seconds to guess the interpretation of each pictures shown on the screen. Let's start. Miss Kabang.
My answer is to inform.
Yes, correct. Deep gray.
I think the answer is to persuade.
Correct. Obida.
To entertain.
Correct. Pabiran.
My answer is to argue.
Miskabang.
My answer is to inspire.
So thank you everyone for participating in this activity. I guess everyone here got their points. Um, just a reminder that your participation on this activity of group 4 will give you additional points for the others that have low scores. So again, thank you everyone. You can now leave. Thank you again for participating.
Number one is to inform. This is your purpose when you would like to communicate certain information like a news, a report, a perspective, a story, or even a series of steps and procedures to a particular audience in a particular setting, whether through spoken or written discourse. The main purpose of informative or expository communication or writing is to simply convey information factually. Its goal is to input new learning, enhance prior knowledge, confirm a concept, alleviate comprehension of an idea, or explain a process or procedure. When your purpose is to inform, always remember this. Number one, start with an example of a relevant event or situation. Number two, describe images of the event or situation with clear words. Number three, discuss what complicated the situation, what the problems were, and how solutions were reached. Number four, make a transition to the current event or situation. Number five, talk about the presentation by giving an overview. And number six, discuss complications, problems, and potential or actual solutions.
Okay, the second purpose of communication is to entertain. Whether in oral or written discourse, a communicator's purpose may be to entertain, which means to provide someone with amusement or enjoyment. So to entertain, so the term to entertain is associated with the use of entertaining speech. An entertaining speech is one that is intended to attract the attention of the audience and try to impress or amuse them while conveying a message. Entertaining presentation, like more traditional, informative, or persuasive speeches, should transmit a coherent point, but the way of speaking utilized in an entertaining speech is often different. So, entertaining speeches are frequently presented on exceptional occasions, like, for example, a toast at a wedding, an acceptance speech at an awards banquet, or a motivating address at a conference, which is why they are also known as special occasion speeches. They can, however, be presented on more commonplace occasion where their primary objective is to entertain or steer audience members emotionally in some way. Remember that when we say entertain, we are talking about both comedy and drama. The purpose of an entertaining speech is to provoke the reaction of the audience. So here are some 7 helpful tips for entertaining your audience. So the first one, start with an example of a relevant event or situation and made it humorous as possible. Use words that elicit joyous or pleasant reaction. Describe images of the event or situation in vivid words. Relate to personal experience with examples. Make a transition to the current event or situation. Make relevant points of comparison. And lastly, end with a memorable statement related to the most important point. So the third purpose of communication is to persuade. This purpose of communication is to cause listeners or readers to agree with the speaker's or an author's ideas by using emotion and personal ideas. In persuading or to persuade, persuasion involves an accurate and well-organized presentation of information or details upon which a person may act. The form of speaking in which most individuals participate is persuasive speaking. This style of discourse might range from debating over politics to discussing what to eat for dinner. Persuasive speaking is strongly related to the audience because the speaker must meet the audience halfway. Obviously, the speaker does not have complete control over persuasion. Persuasion happens when an audience agrees with what the speaker says. As a result, persuasive speaking takes special attention to active listening. So here are 5 helpful tips when persuading your audience. If your purpose is to persuade, take note of the following suggestions. First, know your audience. Of course, when you're trying to persuade or convince your audience, your presentation and ideas should be connected with them, because if the audience isn't familiar in what you're presenting or persuading, there's a possible chance that you won't convince them. Second, base your idea on your emotion and personal opinion. Of course, that's a must. Use person and second person narration. Appeal more to the heart rather than the mind, because people nowadays are more convinced in following what they feel rather than their minds or what they thought. I mean. Then lastly, consider responding to opposing views.
Concomitant to the topic is to argue. It is where you are arguing to prove that your side is right and just. This means to convince others that your idea and reasons are true by defending and proving your point through facts, statistics, figures, etc. So it sounds like persuasions, but there are differences between them. In persuasion, it is more on emotion-based and very personal in nature. It is also giving you opinionated statements. While on the argumentation, it is more logical based and you are required to prove that with factual statements. So the question is why people argue. There are 4 main reasons why people argue. First is to clarify thinking as an individual or groups. It is where they can expand their knowledge and to learn more about the issue. Second is to explain or defend actions or beliefs. As we all know, people have different beliefs and people have different reasons why they did such things. So in order for them to prove that they are right, they have to prove it with factual statement and evidences. Third is to solve problems or make judgments. So in order for we to solve problems or cases as well, we have to prove it with factual and evidences as a proof. Lastly is to have fun. In universities or schools, we have different debates, and that is one of the kind of argumentation. It is where you can also use that as a bond with your classmates. So there are 7 ways to create more effective argumentation statement. First is consider your situation. Second, clarify your thinking. Third, construct a claim or thesis statement. Fourth is to collect evidences. Fifth is consider key objections and develop counter arguments. Sixth, craft your arguments. And lastly, to confirm your claim.
Let's now learn the rhetorical appeal. So a rhetorical appeal, it is a formal way of talking about how to use different method to persuade someone. So let's put this in an example. So imagine you were a 10 years old boy and it is your birthday. You wanted something, and that something is the video game, a new video game. So you have to approach 3 persons, and that is your father, mother, and your grandmother, your grandma. So first, you approach your father. You point out that you've been good at the school. You are belong to the top students, and you also point out that you've been responsible to the house chores and responsible as a good example to your younger sisters. And you point out that you deserve this because you've been very good as a good son as well to your parents. And second, you approach your mom. You agree that playing video games helps you to improve your hand-eye coordinations, and you also agree to your mom and tell your mom that there was a study shows that a video game helps you to improve your problem-solving ability and your critical thinking ability. Lastly, you approach your grandma. So you point out that you are very cute and her favorite grandchild, and you also told your grandmother that you love her very much. So that's how you persuade someone to get something. Okay. So although on that example, we have used 3 methods of persuasion: appealing to your own character, appealing to logic, and appealing to emotions. As defined by Aristotle, there are actually 3 methods to persuade someone according to Aristotle, and those are the ethos, logos, and pathos. So for ethos, this is the credibility or trustworthiness of the source. So for example, noted Harvard professor John Smith says. So there is a credit. So it says John Smith says. Next is logos. So this is the use of reasoning and logic to convey a particular message. So example for this is, according to a study performed by John Smith, so there is a reasoning according to. Next is pathos. So the use of emotions to provoke a message. So that is what pathos means. Example for this is, poor Miss Kim Dizon, who never get to see his puppy again. So there's an emotion here because we say poor Kim Dizon. He never sees his puppy again. Understanding rhetorical appeals can help writers to build stronger argument and be more persuasive in their writing. Okay, and by identifying rhetorical appeals, writers can begin to understand when it's more appropriate to use um, o- to use one method with another one or over another. Okay, so for instance, we talk about knowing your audience, but why is it important? So it is important because knowing your audience allows you to know what kinds of persuasion is effective to use to persuade them. Okay, so for example, your audience is a college professor, so grading your paper. So then you must use logos to for your persuasion. Yeah, you must use like credentials, credibility, or trustworthiness. Second is if your audience is an employee at work who are trying to get to do something, you may actually use ethos for that. And lastly, if your audience is your grandmother, so we know that all these are emotionals, so we may use pathos to persuade them. Okay, probably that will be the best, and that would work best for them to persuade them to use pathos or emotion. So um, knowing what rhetorical appeal are and how they work are allows us or allows you to spot when someone is trying to persuade you of something.
The last on the list is to inspire. This is pretty much very easy to comprehend. It means to fill someone with the urge or ability to do or feel something, especially to do something creative, beneficial, righteous, and worthwhile. Okay, so when we say inspire, the word is related to imagination, specifically our mind. By the use of our imagination, we come up with something that can motivate others. Now, in this case, it is in the basis of thinking in third person. To inspire or to motivate others, a major key to it is mental support. We provide that support to those who needs it. To inspire, it has the possibility that it may affect both in the mind and affect their actions. On other words, we act as the stimuli for them. Their actions will change depending on how we inspire them. Because not all inspiration leads to a wonderful or positive results and or feedback, there are also times when inspiration goes wrong. So we better think twice of our actions. To inspire others, we mostly use our words. Phrases such as, you can do it, I believe in you, good luck, and you can become what you want to be, are some examples of inspiring words. You want them to be confident. You want them to be stronger. If so, you have to be enthusiastic about it. Because to inspire doesn't just mean speaking. Be the change you want to inspire. That is the saying. Although inspiration can be challenging to understand and describe, what inspires one person may not have any relevance for another. To inspire others is to knowing what is supposed to be said or knowing your limits to avoid any negative outcomes. Let us all remember that everyone here have some tough times, and oftentimes they face trials alone and have no one to talk to. Giving them a little inspiration wouldn't hurt, but it certainly will uplift them in a lighter mood. On another note, we must remember that to inspire, have the their we must have their best interest in mind. Also, remember that to inspire is for them to feel better and be stronger in the mind. Now, that is the end of our report. To reiterate, there are four various purposes in communication. It is to inform, to entertain, to persuade, and to inspire. Even though it may be short, we hope that you've understand the keywords and have paid us your undivided attention. Again, we are the fourth group and we thank you for listening to our lesson.